garuk tanah atau garuk aspal, yang profesinya ojek online atau pegawai kantoran, pengemudi baru atau yang sudah kawakan, atau apapun itu yang bikin seru perjalananmu. Pertamax siap hadirkan energi yang hidupkan sensasi berkendara yang lebih maksimal. Apapun pilihan teman perjalanan, mobil warisan atau mobil kesayangan, yang doyan garuk tanah atau garuk aspal, yang profesinya ojek online atau pegawai kantoran, pengemudi baru atau yang sudah kawakan, atau apapun itu yang bikin seru perjalananmu. Pertamax siap hadirkan energi yang hidupkan sensasi berkendara yang lebih maksimal. Apapun pilihan teman perjalanan, mobil warisan atau mobil kesayangan, yang doyan garuk tanah atau garuk aspal, yang profesinya ojek online atau pegawai kantoran, pengemudi baru atau yang sudah kawakan, atau apapun itu yang bikin seru perjalananmu. Pertamax siap hadirkan energi yang hidupkan sensasi berkendara yang lebih maksimal.
Kami lebih sering menemanimu dari balik layar. Kita memang tidak selalu bersinggungan, namun kami berharap kamu tetap bisa merasakan kehadiran kami. Menyatukan kembali yang jauh, menyalakan lagi kebahagiaan, dan menghadirkan kebersamaan karena selalu bisa diandalkan. Meski tak selalu terlihat, semoga kamu bisa selalu merasakan kehangatannya. Kami lebih sering menemanimu dari balik layar. Kita memang tidak selalu bersinggungan, namun kami berharap kamu tetap bisa merasakan kehadiran kami. Menyatukan kembali yang jauh, menyalakan lagi kebahagiaan, dan menghadirkan kebersamaan karena selalu bisa diandalkan. Meski tak selalu terlihat, semoga kamu bisa selalu merasakan kehangatannya.
Kita sama-sama jalan hidup, walau tujuan dan arahnya mungkin berbeda.
Pokoknya kita selalu menyelesaikan celah, ya kan Ma?
Dengan Fastron, suasana panas, sabar ya. Inginkan saja pakai Fastron.
Terus cari inspirasi, nggak perlu tunggu semangat.
Dengan Fastron, gas on. Apapun mobilnya, kemanapun tujuannya, Om yang memahami semua mobil di Indonesia. Fastron, gas on. Kita sama-sama jalan hidup, walau tujuan dan Kita sama-sama jalan hidup walau tujuan dan arahnya mungkin berbeda.
Pokoknya kita kalau benar cari celah, ya kan Ma?
Dengan Fastron, suasana panas, sabar ya, dinginkan saja. Pakai Fastron,
Terus kejar inspirasi, tidak perlu tunggu esok hari.
dengan Fastron,
Gas on!
apapun mobilnya, kemanapun tujuannya, Om yang memahami semua mobil di Indonesia. Fastron, gas on! Kita
Kami lebih sering menemanimu dari balik layar. Kita memang tidak selalu bersinggungan. Namun, kami berharap kamu tetap bisa merasakan kehadiran kami. Menyatukan kembali yang jauh, menyalakan lagi kebahagiaan, dan menghadirkan kebersamaan karena selalu bisa diandalkan. Meski tak selalu terlihat, semoga kamu bisa selalu merasakan kehangatannya. Kami lebih sering menemanimu dari balik layar. Kita memang tidak selalu bersinggungan. Namun, kami berharap kamu tetap bisa merasakan kehadiran kami. Menyatukan kembali yang jauh, menyalakan lagi kebahagiaan, dan menghadirkan kebersamaan karena selalu bisa diandalkan. Meski tak selalu terlihat, semoga kamu bisa selalu merasakan kehangatannya. Kami lebih sering menemanimu dari balik layar. Kita memang tidak selalu bersinggungan. Namun, kami berharap kamu tetap bisa merasakan kehadiran kami. Menyatukan kembali yang jauh, menyalakan lagi kebahagiaan, dan menghadirkan kebersamaan karena selalu bisa diandalkan. Meski tak selalu terlihat, semoga kamu bisa selalu merasakan kehangatannya.
As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future. As a global energy company, Pertamina has been consistent in leading the transition into eco-friendly energy. In the spirit of conduct Indonesia into a better energy future, Pertamina presents the Green Energy Station, a new concept of environmentally friendly refueling stations that utilize solar power plants to attain energy self-sufficiency and operational sustainability to reduce carbon emissions and boost efficiency. Pertamina Green Energy Station provides eco-friendly products supported by My Pertamina, a digital loyalty application that offers many benefits. Let's welcome cleaner energy for a more sustainable future.
Kita sama-sama jalan hidup, walau tujuan dan arahnya mungkin berbeda.
Pokoknya, kita mau benar-benar cari celah. Ya kan, Ma?
Dengan Fastron, suasana panas, sabar ya. Inginkan saja. Pakai Fastron.
Terus cari inspirasi, gak perlu tunggu semangat.
Dengan Fastron,
Gas on!
apapun mobilnya, kemanapun tujuannya, Om yang memahami semua mobil di Indonesia. Fastron, gas on! Kita sama-sama jalan hidup. Suasana panas, sabar ya. Inginkan saja. Pakai fast rock.
Terus kejar inspirasi. Gak perlu tunggu esok hari.
Dengan fast rock,
Gas on.
apapun mobilnya, kemanapun tujuannya, Om yang memahami semua mobil di Indonesia. Fast rock, gas on. Kita sama-sama jalan hidup walau
of Agriculture 11 Maret University, Surakarta, and we apologize because Mr. Samanhudi is unable to attend here today.
The Honorable Professor Dr. Engineer Eka Handayanta, MPIPU ASEAN Engineer, as a Vice Dean for Academic Research and Student Affairs.
And we are proud of all participants of the International Seminar Agrixplosion 2024 who are present here today.
First of all, let us give praise and gratitude, Almighty God, because with guidance, blessing, and grace, we can attend and participate in this event.
Ladies and gentlemen, to open today's program, let us open by praying together. According to our religion and belief, the prayer can begin. Enough.
Before we get into the program, let's introduce ourselves first.
My name is Britan Ala Rahmat Al Azza,
And I'm Ivoyek Nadira as
Master
Master of Ceremony.
Before proceeding to the next session, we will sing the Indonesian National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand, and the committee in charge, time is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seat.
Before we get into the main program, we will read out the schedule of this morning. The first agenda was the opening.
The second agenda, opening speech.
The third agenda is presentation from Agricultural Extension and Communication student.
The fourth agenda, presentation from our great speaker, and then question and answer.
The fifth agenda is awarding session.
And the last agenda is closing.
Before moving into the main agenda, we will read the rules for offline and online participant of today's seminar.
arrangement for rules for offline participants or those present in the whole building B, Faculty of Agriculture UNS. The first, the seminar will be notified on the day before the seminar event.
Participants are expected to enter the hall 30 minutes before the seminar starts.
Participant must fill in the attendance list before entering the hall.
During the seminar, participants must maintain ethics and manners.
All participants must pay attention and respect the speaker or committee when speaking and speak when given the opportunity by speaker or committee.
Participants can ask questions in the question and answer session by raising hands and saying name, institution, and tool. Then the question.
Next, participants are mandatory to follow the series of seminar event until completion.
E-certificate will be given to participants who have been active and filled in the attendance list at the beginning.
Then, the arrangement of rule for online participant or those in the Zoom. First, the Zoom meeting link will be provided 30 minutes before the seminar event.
Participants are expected to enter the Zoom 15 minutes before the seminar starts.
Next, participant must fill in the attendance list form at the beginning and at the end of the seminar event.
Then participant must change their name to name underscores institution.
Next, participant must turn on the camera and use the virtual background provided by the committee.
Then the virtual background will be shared on the day of seminar.
During the event, participants must maintain ethics and manners.
Then participant can ask question in the question and answer session by raise hand feature or using chat room feature with format name underscore institution underscore to underscore the question.
Next, participants are mandatory to follow the series of seminar event until completion.
The certificate will be given to participants who have been active and filled in the attendance list at the beginning and at the end seminar. Then during the event, participants can make documentation of this event, then upload it to Instagram, and don't forget to mention at Agrixplosion 24. Then the most interesting Instagram stories will be winning prizes.
Okay, the next event is welcoming speech.
The first speech will be delivered by Irfanur Hidayat as the chairman of the Agrixplosion 2024 committee. For Irfanur Hidayat, time is yours.
Cek. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to stand here as the Chief Committee of Agrixplosion 2024 International Seminar to say a word or two as part of the opening procession. The Honorable Professor Dr. Insinyur Eka Handayanta, SPMP IPU ASEAN Engineering, as a Vice Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture 11 Maret University. The Honorable Dr. Wawan Gunawan, SHUT MSc, as a Head of Subdirectorate for Climate Change Resource Support as the keynote speaker. The Honorable Mr. Hans de Cruyff, PhD MSc, as a Utrecht University lecturer. Thank you for your participation and contribution as our first speaker. And also for our national speaker, the Honorable second speaker, Miss Ida Rumia Manurung, SPM AGR, as Universitas 11 Maret lecturer from the Agrotechnology Department. Previously, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all of you who have taken the time to be here with us. I would also like to thank you, the invited guests and participants of the Agrixplosion 2024 International Seminar, for taking the time to attend our event. I will effort while preparing this event so it can be carried out very well. Maybe that's a few words for me. If there are any mistake in my word, I apologize. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ivan, for the welcoming speech.
The next speech will be delivered Professor Dr. Engineer Udi SASE IPM Asian Engineer as the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture 11 Maret University Surakarta, who is unable to attend here today and will be represented by Professor Dr. Engineer Eka Handayanta, MPIPU ASEAN Engineer, as the Vice Dean for Academic Research and Student Affairs. For Professor Dr. Engineer Eka Handayanta, time is yours.
Thank you very much for the time given to me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Dr. Katarina Mulyana SH, SCMH, as Executor Director of Universitas 11 Maret Surakarta. The Honorable Speakers. The first is Dr. Insinyur Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Master of Science, the Minister of Environment and Forestry, as the keynote speaker, represented by Dr. Wawan Gunawan Esud, Master of Science, as Head of Subdirectorate of Climate Change Research Support. The second one, the Honorable Hans de Kroef, PhD, MSc, from Utrecht University, the Netherlands. Thank you for your participation and contribution as our first speaker. And the last one, the Honorable Ida Rumia Maldung, SP MAGSC, from Agrotechnology Department, Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas 11 Maret, Indonesia. Thank you very much for your participation and also for all the participants in this event. Based on the increase in carbon dioxide emissions caused by high human activities that mostly use fuel such as oil, gas, and fossils. This has a negative impact because in its activities it ignores concern for the surrounding environment. Therefore, our solutions made to overcome these problems are by implementing net zero emission (NZE). I believe that the reason we all were here is because of our concern about how important Indonesia and the world are to achieving net zero emissions. Today, we are going to gain an understanding of net zero emission and other relevant information. Hopefully, after this forum, we can contribute to achieving net zero emission by implementing what we learned today and enhancing the interest of the young generation in the development of the agriculture sector. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Handayanta, for giving the welcoming speech.
The next speech will be delivered by Dr. Engineer Siti Nurbaya Bakar, MSc, as the Minister of the Environment and Forestry, who is unable to attend here today and will be represented by Dr. Wawan Gunawan, SHUD MSc, as Head of Subdirectorate of Climate Change, Research and Support. For Dr. Wawan Gunawan, time is yours.
Baik, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Izinkan saya mungkin untuk menyampaikan keynote speech dalam bahasa Inggris, dalam bahasa Indonesia. Yang terhormat Rektor Universitas 11 Maret atau yang mewakili, yang terhormat Bapak Dekan Fakultas Pertanian Universitas 11 Maret atau yang mewakili, jajaran Wakil Dekan dan seluruh sivitas akademika Universitas 11 Maret, Pembina Himpunan Mahasiswa Penyuluhan dan Komunikasi Pertanian, Bapak Eksa, Ketua Panitia Pelaksana, Ketua Himpunan Mahasiswa, adik-adik mahasiswa, serta seluruh narasumber yang pada kesempatan ini hadir Bapak Ibu Dr. Ida Rumia Manung dan Profesor Hans de Cruz dari Utrecht University, dan seluruh peserta adik-adik mahasiswa yang hadir pada kesempatan hari ini. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala karena
Enggak, Chan?
belum dapat. Sungguh suatu kehormatan bagi saya untuk hadir di tengah-tengah Bapak, Ibu, rekan-rekan, adik-adik semua yang hadir pada acara di hari ini, baik secara offline maupun secara online. Dan kami sampaikan juga apresiasi kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan saudara semua yang telah menyempatkan waktu untuk berpartisipasi mengikuti rangkaian acara pada hari ini. Yang kalau kita lihat tadi, acaranya, agendanya sangat bagus sekali untuk kita bersama. Bapak, Ibu, serta hadirin sekalian yang kami hormati, seperti yang kita ketahui bersama, saat ini di dunia menghadapi tantangan yang berat. Bumi menghadapi tantangan lipat 3 atau triple planet challenge, yakni perubahan iklim, kehilangan keanekaragaman hayati, dan polusi yang semakin lama semakin serius. Bahkan Sekjen Perserikatan Bangsa-Bangsa dalam Climate Ambition Summit atau konferensi tingkat tinggi sebagai bagian dari pertemuan Majelis Umum PBB ke-78 menyampaikan bahwa humanity has opened the gate of hell. Kemanusiaan telah membuka gerbang menuju neraka. Hal ini menunjukkan bahwa saat ini krisis iklim sudah menjadi masalah yang sangat genting dan perlu menjadi perhatian utama dan juga serius dari semua negara di dunia. Indonesia sebagai bagian dari bangsa-bangsa di dunia tentunya mengalami hal yang sama dan juga memiliki komitmen untuk upaya mengurangi atau mengatasi permasalahan yang terjadi tersebut. Indonesia yang merupakan negara kepulauan total lebih dari 17.000 pulau dengan karakteristik yang beragam, sangat rentan terhadap terjadinya perubahan iklim. Bahkan sebagian besar bencana akibat krisis iklim ini sudah dirasakan secara nyata, seperti banjir, kekeringan, panas ekstrim, ataupun gelombang panas yang memberikan dampak berupa terjadinya gagal panen, ancaman penyakit, serta kebakaran lahan dan hutan. Kenaikan suhu rata-rata serta pergeseran iklim yang terjadi hampir di seluruh wilayah Indonesia ini meningkatkan potensi bencana di berbagai provinsi di Indonesia. Adik-adik mahasiswa yang kami banggakan, perlu kita ketahui bahwa Indonesia merupakan satu dari 199 negara di dunia yang menandatangani Persetujuan Paris atau Paris Agreement, yang di dalamnya memuat komitmen para bangsa di dunia untuk sama-sama menekan laju kenaikan suhu global tidak lebih dari 1,5 derajat Celcius. Untuk mencapai tujuan tersebut, pemerintah Indonesia terus berkomitmen untuk meningkatkan ambisinya dalam upaya pengurangan emisi gas rumah kaca. Dengan target terbaru yang disampaikan pada Enhanced NDC, yaitu Indonesia menargetkan atau meningkatkan target pengurangan emisi gas rumah kaca pada skenario CM1 atau kontrometer 1 atau dengan upaya sendiri sebesar 31,89% dan pada skenario CM2 atau dengan bantuan luar negeri sebesar 43,20% dari bisnis as usual pada tahun 2030 nanti. Selain target pada tahun 2030 tersebut, pemerintah Indonesia juga telah memiliki visi jangka panjang untuk perubahan iklim tahun 2050 yang memuat tujuan Indonesia menuju net zero emission atau emisi nol bersih pada tahun 2060 atau lebih tepat. Tahun di mana nantinya tentu adik-adik mahasiswa yang ada di sinilah yang menjadi garda terdepan bangsa ini dan mungkin juga sudah menjadi para pemimpin di Indonesia, yang mana dengan kata lain apa yang terjadi pada tahun tersebut ada pada genggaman adik-adik mahasiswa, siswi sekalian di sini, yang mana merupakan dampak kolektif dari adik-adik lakukan mulai dari sekarang. Bapak, Ibu, serta hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia, inovasi adalah kunci untuk mencapai net zero emission. Inovasi tentunya melibatkan pengembangan teknologi baru, perbaikan proses yang ada, dan menemukan solusi kreatif untuk masalah yang kompleks. Inovasi memungkinkan kita untuk memikirkan kembali pendekatan kita terhadap seluruh hal yang menghasilkan emisi gas rumah kaca agar dapat ditekan, bahkan lebih baik lagi tidak menimbulkan emisi. Inovasi inilah yang nanti kita butuhkan dan kita harapkan dari adik-adik semua di Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Negeri 11 Maret ini. Mengingat pertanian termasuk salah satu sektor NDC atau National Determined Contribution yang diharapkan dapat ditekan emisinya, serta ketahanan pangan juga menjadi salah satu sektor prioritas bagi upaya adaptasi. Sehingga bisa dikatakan bahwa pertanian merupakan sektor yang sangat strategis dan memerlukan inovasi untuk menghadapi ancaman iklim. Salah satu inovasi dalam bidang pertanian yaitu melalui pengelolaan lahan berkelanjutan dan juga upaya penggalakan sumber protein alternatif karena secara signifikan dapat mengurangi emisi dan meningkatkan ketahanan pangan. Penting menjadi catatan bahwa inovasi sebaik apapun juga tidak akan pernah tercapai apabila tidak ada keterlibatan dari seluruh pihak. Karena pengendalian perubahan iklim ini tentunya merupakan kerja bersama kolektif yang tidak hanya bisa mengandalkan atau mengabaikan pihak tertentu. Semua mulai dari pemerintah pusat, selaku pengerumus kebijakan, pemerintah daerah, pemuda, dan lainnya harus saling bahu-membahu menciptakan masa depan yang berkelanjutan. Adik-adik mahasiswa calon pemimpin bangsa, menjelang akhir sambutan ini, kami hanya ingin menegaskan kembali mengenai komitmen
Thank you very much for the time given to me.
zero emission
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
sama dari berbagai sektor dan seluruh pihak. Atas catatan itu, kami berharap acara hari ini dapat memberikan wawasan dan juga mendorong kita sebagai agen perubahan yang senantiasa menerapkan gaya hidup berkelanjutan dan ramah lingkungan. Mari kita selalu ingat bahwa pilihan yang kita buat hari ini akan berpengaruh bagi hari esok dan bagi generasi mendatang. Semoga semangat kita untuk memperjuangkan lingkungan hidup yang lebih baik bagi kita dan generasi mendatang tidak pernah layu. Jangan letih untuk menjadi pemeran utama dari setiap usaha pengendalian perubahan iklim yang berkeadilan di sekitar kita. Mari kita berlomba-lomba menjadi khalifah bagi bumi tempat kita berpijak ini. Selamat berdiskusi. Semoga acara seminar Internasional Agrixplosion 2024 ini dapat menghasilkan pemikiran yang lebih baik bagi kemajuan Indonesia dalam menuju net zero emission pada tahun 2060 atau lebih cepat. Demikian, terima kasih. Wabillahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Wawan Gunawan for your welcoming speech. And we would like to say welcome to Mr. Hans de Cruyff, our first speakers from Netherlands. And the next session is hand over a certificate to our keynote speaker, Dr. Wawan Gunawan, as Hood MSc. Then for Mr. Exa and Mr. Wawan Gunawan, please come to the stage to handing over medals and certificates.
Okay, we remind participants can document the event, then upload it to Instagram. And don't forget to mention at Agrixplosion24. And the most interesting Instagram stories will get a prize. Okay, before entering the event, it would be nice if we do the jargon first. When we say Agri-Explosion 2024, you can answer zero emission, one solution, bring positive change for the future.
Okay, let's do the jargon. 1, 2, 3. Agri-Explosion 2024.
Zero emission, one solution, bring positive change for the future.
Okay.
Okay. We would like to thanks to Pertamina and thanks to all of media partner because this event and competition in Agri-Explosion 2024 can be organized well.
Then the next agenda is a presentation of research result conducted by agricultural extension and communication students. So Nazula and Vera, time is yours. Sorry, before we get into the presentation, we will be a documentation first with Mr. Gunawan. So for
The
committee
committee
in
in charge.
charge, we requested to make a documentation first. Okay, let's get into the presentation for Nazula and Vera. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us thank to Allah, the Almighty, the most beneficial and the most merciful. He's the one who gives us a blessing, so we can be together in this beautiful.
Secondly, salawat and salam go to our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who brought us from the darkness into lightness like right now. Then let us introduce ourselves. My name is Azula Salsabila.
I am Fernanda Eka Cahyani from the Agricultural Extension and Communication student. Oh, we're standing here because we want to explain about our research by the title,
The behavior of young people in implementing net zero emission in Indonesia.
Why this topic is important. The climate change is already occurring and cannot be avoided, characterized by an increase in global average temperatures, change in rainfall patterns, and increasingly frequent extreme weather events. One of the main causes in the increasing effect of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane and nitrogen oxide, which accumulate in the atmosphere. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, carbon dioxide concentration have increased by around 48% since the pre-industrial era, reaching their highest peak in the last 800,000 years in 2021. Data from the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, shows that 2020 was one of the three hottest years on record, with global average temperatures around 1.2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. Adaptation and mitigation of climate change are needed. One important mitigation strategy is to achieve net zero emission, namely a condition where the amount of greenhouse gas emission released into the atmosphere is balanced by the amount reabsorbed. Net zero emissions are the goal of many countries and companies to keep global temperatures rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius as the target in the Paris Agreement. The younger generation has a crucial role in efforts to achieve net zero emissions. According to a Pew Research Center survey, 67% of millennials and 71% of Gen Z in the United States believe that the government needs to do more to address climate change. A study by the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, also found that 64% of young people from the world are very concerned about climate change and are willing to take a concerted action. Data from the Economist Intelligence Unit shows that 85% Gen Z prefer to work for companies that have a strong commitment to sustainability and the environment. Based on this background, this research aims to determine the behavior of the younger generation in implementing net zero emission and the factors that is influenced it.
Then, the research result we use is by quantitative descriptive. 120 respondents were selected purposefully with the criteria that they were from the millennial generation and Gen Z. We are willing to participate in filling out the questionnaire which was submitted via GForm. Then the questionnaire contains statements regarding age, formal education, non-formal education, attitude, and behavior of net zero emission. Data was collected through questionnaires and further some interviews to understand the data that had been collected. The collected data was then analyzed using multiple linear regression analysis. And then the next slide, we have three main results from our research. Number one is the behavior of the younger generation in implementing net zero emission reaches at 76% of the expected behavior. Then the number two is the factor eight, less education, non-formal education, and attitude can explain at 36.7% as factor that influence the behavior of the younger generation in implementing net zero emission. Then the main result from this research number three is attitude factor have a significant effect, well as formal education. But for non-formal education, do not have a significant effect on net zero emission behavior. The regression equation from these findings is formulated as y 31.677 plus 103 x1 means 0.289 x2 plus 0.68 x3 plus 0.667 x4 plus epsilon, where y is for net zero emission behavior, x1 is for X, x2 is formal education, x3 for non-formal education, x4 is for Okay, so the last slide, we have main findings and suggestions from our research. Number one is attitude have a significant influence on the behavior of the younger generation in implementing net zero emission. Therefore, efforts are needed to build a positive attitude toward the behavior by increasing the knowledge of the importance of net zero emission.
Then even though it doesn't have a significant effect, formal education has a negative value, which means that the higher the formal education, the lower the behavior in implementing net zero emission. An understanding of net zero emission is needed for the intellectual generation. And yeah, that's enough from us. Sorry for all of the mistakes. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Nazula and Farah, for amazing presentation.
Okay, I think we can go straight to the main agenda, namely the presentation of material by the speaker as a discussion session and question and answer session that will be guided by the moderator. Before that, let's see the curriculum vitae of the moderator first.
Okay. Benedict Tanilam is undergraduate student of 11 Maret University, majoring in Agriculture Extension and Communication, Faculty of Agriculture, class of 2022.
For your information, she has some work experiences. Her last job as co-assistant of agricultural extension practicum.
Lately, she was speaker of Hello Kids ESLC UNS.
In 2023, she also became moderator of Smart Belajar, and she has many other experience. Then finally, to Benedict Tanilang, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for MC for the time, and thank you for all the participants that has been joined in this event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good morning everyone. It's nice to meet all of you in this international seminar of Agrixplosion 2024. All right. As introduced by MC, my name is Benedicta Nilam Ayu Pramesti and you can call me Nilam. So I will guide today's discussion as a moderator with the theme Implementing Innovation to Reach Net Zero Emission for Sustainable Future. Okay, everyone, as we know that the increase in the population will certainly increase in the carbon dioxide emission. It's because the majority of human activities is use fuels like oil, gas, and the fossil. And this condition will be an impact to a global warming or extreme climate change, which can be effect that decline of environment quality. So the solution that we have to solve this problem is we have to implement a net zero emission or NZE. This means releasing no more carbon into the air than the earth can absorb by the earth. And in order to achieve that situation that we have to implement or we have to transition from a current energy system to be a cleaner energy system so we can create the balance of the human activity and the environment quality. Okay, I'm sure that you're already curious about our topic, right? Yes, of course, exactly. And And for today, we have a great two speaker, and let's welcome our guest speaker, Room. Please taking a part on the stage. Okay, it's my honor to welcome our distinguished speaker. Hello, Mr. Hans and Miss Ida. Good morning. Good morning. Oh yeah, this commitment chart. Can you help? It's already turned on. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Hans and Miss Ida. Good morning. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to
It's
meet you.
nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, it's
Yes,
on.
it's turned on. Okay. Okay, thank you for your attendance in this international seminar of Agrixplosion 2024. Okay, everyone. In the first session, we have Mr. Hans de Clef as our first speaker. And now I will read the curriculum vitae of Mr. Hans de Clef. Okay, Mr. Hans has taught course in violence, trauma, and reconciliation at Utrecht University College and currently lectures on the Political Anthropologist Faculty of Social and Behavioral Science lecture at the Utrecht University of Netherlands. And he runs course on the ethnographic research and academic writing in anthropologist research master program orchestra. And he has supervised a PhD and MSc and research project across the globe. And please, thank you so much for your attendance, Mr. Hans. Yeah, what?
I can be there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Hans, before get start presentation, I will remind you. Okay, it's okay. It's okay if you sit there. Okay, and Mr. Hans, if you before you get start presentation, I will remind you that your time is 45 minutes. Yeah, and the 5 minutes, last 5 minutes, I will remind you again that the time is almost over. Okay.
I will try to stick.
Okay. Okay, everyone, let's welcome Mr. Hans de Clef. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you so much for inviting me to this talk. It's an honor and a delight to be here today, all the way from the Netherlands. Thank you, students, especially for organizing this event. This is to me, this is very impressive. I wish that some of my students in the Netherlands would be this enthusiastic and passionate about a certain topic. They often are, but I'm really impressed. Thank you, and I'm impressed with the hospitality as well. For me, it's an important lesson in hospitality. So, so thank you so much. As you know, my name is Hans de Cruijff. I am indeed a social scientist from the Netherlands and an assistant professor at the Faculty of Social and Behavioral Sciences in Holland at Utrecht University, which you see on the slide. It's a little small, I guess, but it's one of the oldest universities in the Netherlands. It was established in 1636, if I'm correct, so it's a few hundred years old. A very old city called Utrecht, which is over 1,000 years old as a city. Just because I like my lectures or my talks to be a little interactive. I'm not sure if you're used to that, but has anybody ever been to Utrecht in the Netherlands? Just out of curiosity. Nobody. Would you like to go? I actually supervise a PhD student right now who's from Jogja. His name is Dawam, and he's looking at religious authority in social media in Indonesia, and how there's contestation about religious authority. And he likes the Netherlands. He likes Utrecht a lot, but he thinks it's too cold. So he suffers every winter. He doesn't have sun in the Netherlands. So if you go to Holland, if you ever get a chance to go to Holland, it's love. Bring your coat, right? Make sure you bring your coat. So why am I invited to a talk at Agrixplosion? I was a bit curious to figure that out myself as well. I thought a lot about it. I didn't thank Yani as well. She's been a very great friend and a very wonderful guide in Indonesia. I owe a lot to her, and I'm sure she's a wonderful teacher too. So you should cherish her. She's very special, and of course her husband Hero. That I guess you don't know, but they're such wonderful. So thank you so much. Terima kasih. Anyway, so my relation to agriculture is very limited. I did research on agriculture, but I did research on industrialized food production, and especially the social side of industrialized food production, specific social and political implications of seed production, of biochemical pesticides, and so on. And I did research, for instance, on Hawaii, the islands of Hawaii and Maui, and I looked at people's relation with a company called Monsanto. Have you heard of a company called Monsanto? You have heard? Monsanto is a large transnational corporation who was involved in production, the genetic modification, and the production of biochemicals like pesticides and herbicides, among which a substance called glyphosate. Have you heard of glyphosate? And they marketed a product called Roundup. They produced seeds called Roundup Ready for genetically modified seeds that were resilient against this particular kind of pesticide. And a lot of local people contested the use of and the practice of a company called Monsanto. And I looked at the way people organized themselves and contested these large corporations and how they contested to control these corporations, claimed over the system of food production. And in a way, this research was about food sovereignty, which is an important theme in social science, at least in Europe. So it's basically about the question, who is controlling the system of food production, who's controlling food distribution, and who's controlling food consumption? And how can people as consumers and producers of food, also small farmers, how can they be autonomous and claim some sort of autonomy in a world that is increasingly controlled by large corporations that are interested in shareholders perhaps a little more sometimes than they're interested in people using food and producing food at small, at grassroots level. Now, in a way, this research was also about sustainability. And clearly sustainability is the topic of my presentation today. Now, if you look at the term sustainability, it comes from the verb to sustain. And to sustain, if you look at Oxford Dictionary, which is one of the most prestigious dictionaries, it can mean two things. And I want you to look at this definition quite carefully because it's going to return the previous slide, please. The previous slide. Next slide. Previous slide. The definitions. It's slide number 3. Yes, this is the slide. So it can mean different things. So look carefully at this definition because it's going to come back in the presentation. According to the Oxford Dictionary, to sustain can mean, for instance, to provide enough of what somebody or something needs in order to live or exist. So it can mean to provide enough in order to live or exist. But it can also mean something else. It can mean to make something continue for some time without becoming less. So it can mean either one, according to the Oxford Dictionary, to produce enough or provide enough in order to live or exist, or to make something continue for some time without becoming less. The next slide. Now, if you look at the definition, a lot of questions can be asked, right? And the most obvious ones are projected on the slide there, these two. First question you can ask yourself is, who or what needs to be sustained? Huh? Is it about human beings? Is it about plant life? Is it about animal life? Is it about all of these? Or is it about something completely different? The second question you can ask yourself is, what should continue without becoming less? What is it really that we want to sustain here? I think this is a really important question when it comes to sustainability. What do we want to sustain? And I think there is some confusion when you look at certain solutions to net zero. There's some confusion regarding the question, what should continue without becoming less? And the answer to these questions clearly depends on who you're asking these questions to, and what do you focus on? Next slide. Yeah. Now, looking at what we're talking about here today, whether or not sustainability is a realistic goal clearly will depend on these questions, right? Now, the kind of sustainability, the approach to the kind of sustainability that we focus on today is often what I would say a fairly anthropocentric or a human-centric approach to sustainability. Now, of course, we talk about the extinction of animal species. Of course, we talk about the destruction of habitat and biodiversity. We've, for instance, coined the term ecocide. Yes, you're familiar with the term ecocide. But ultimately, really, if you think of it, in the minds of many, sustainability is really ultimately about creating the conditions that we need for human beings in order to continue living the way we do. That seems to be sustainability if you look at some policymakers, if you look at corporate agents, if you look at some consumers. Sustainability seems to be about creating the conditions that we need as humans to continue living the way we do. So if you talk about sustainable transformation, and that is what the title to this talk mentioned, the underlying question then is how can we design and how can we implement solutions to transform, for instance, energy production and energy consumption in such a way that it allows our current practices to continue. Of course, there's a lot more to sustainability than energy. There are a lot more problems than global warming. Just to name a few, we also need solutions for plastic waste, which is a big issue. Think about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is in Holland for this plastic soup. I don't know if you know that term here, plastic soup. I don't know if you're familiar with Pandawara. Are you familiar with Pandawara? The dirtiest beach. I think then the second dirtiest beach, right? And they're cleaning up things. That's all largely plastic, of course. Another problem is the loss of biodiversity. Losing plant species in the Netherlands is a big problem. And losing plant species in the Netherlands is because of the lack of pollinating insects. The incredible decrease of amount of insects, especially butterflies in the Netherlands, create a loss of biodiversity. Some people in the Netherlands use the word grass salt instead of asphalt. Have you heard of that term, grass salt? Grass salt. I live in a rural area, and my neighbor is a farmer. And if I look at my garden, which is full of weeds, and I don't mind weeds, my farmer, the neighbor, has big stretches of land, and there's no weed. There's no weed at all. It's only grass, and they call it grass salt, which is nice for him because he produces grass to sell to goat farmers, which is clearly not nice for insects who don't have much use for grass, right? Another problem is particulate matter and air quality. What do you think what do you think is the impact of particulate matter on the life expectancy of Indonesians? Does anybody have an idea? I told you it's going to be slightly interactive. Does anybody have an idea what the life expectancy impact of poor air quality in Indonesia is for the report? I will tell you what I found, at least. It's 1.2 years. So you guys live 1.2 year on average less because of poor air quality. And in Jakarta, it's worse. So good thing you're here. Pretty far from Jakarta, 2.3 years.
Apa aku bilang, Pak, apakah bisa datang meeting hari ini?
It's a very poor air quality. Deforestation. Kalimantan is a wonderful example mentioned in on deforestation along with the Amazon. 20%, if I'm correct, if the numbers that I have seen were correct, 20% decrease in about 25 years time of the treetops since 2000. Acidification of the oceans is another problem. Water insecurity, soil degradation, there's a lot of problems to worry about. Right? But to make this story manageable, let's focus on the most magnificent of a problem, and that's what we do here. and that's global warming as a result of the emission of greenhouse gases, most notably carbon dioxide and methane. Now, as was mentioned by the students before, net zero emissions is the key idea here. And as you will know, net zero emissions is about creating a balance, right? Creating a balance between the amount of greenhouse gases that are released into the atmosphere on one hand, and the amount of greenhouse gases that are removed from the atmosphere. That's really simply what net zero emissions are about. And people think that technology can help do both. Technology can help do both. Technological innovations, for instance, will allow us to capture CO2 emissions. That possibility. How can we use technology in order to capture some? How can we, go to the chimneys of factories, for instance, and capture the fumes there, and take that and store that CO2, subsurface, deep underground. But more importantly, technology has to be able to reduce the emissions to such an extent that they will exceed our net zero objective. A big part of that reduction of emissions, of course, is this transition, this great transition that we expect from unrenewable, especially fossil sources, to clean or cleaner energy, zero emission sources. And this includes, I don't need to tell you, this includes, of course, sun power, wind power, hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy, which is a big theme here in Indonesia. For instance, and implementation of these new technologies happens quite rapidly. And I think in Europe even more than in Southeast Asia. And these technologies are increasingly affordable and accessible to people, heavily subsidized also in the Netherlands. The funny thing about the Netherlands is we don't have sun, but we've been the most solarized country in the world. If you look at the amount of solar panels per capita per person in the country, then Holland is by far the most solarized country in the world because of stuff. Now the funny thing is, what we need energy for is heating. We need energy for heating, and when do you need the house to be heated? In the Dutch winter. And when is there the least amount of sun ever? In the winter. So I was told when I was reconstructing my house, I was told by the contractor to put solar panels. I put 24 tiny solar panels on the rooftop of my house, and they're wonderful. But I don't really need them. I can't use them in the winter when I have to purchase the energy because there's no sun, right? So there, all those technological innovations, they come with some problems, and they have specific challenges. For instance, concerning the erratic availability of energy, storage of energy, and like I said, the fluctuations in the production of energy, which depends on the shifting availability of sun and wind, right? You need to have an energy mix by definition. Can we move to slide 7? I don't know where we actually hardly see. It's the graph. Yeah, that's the graph. Now, if you look at projections, if you look at people's forecasts of what's going to happen in the future, you see that some people are very optimistic, and they say that in about 25 years from now, almost half the world's electricity will be provided by renewable sources. Now, if you look at that graph, I don't know, maybe you can zoom into the graph a little bit. Could you zoom into the graph on the PowerPoint? I hope I'm not too demanding. Yeah, this is pretty good. So this is a very optimistic prognosis, right? This is what the situation will be like in a few decades from now. I'm just curious. Again, like I said, I hope to get some comment by the room. But what is so the gray area are unrenewable sources, and the other colored areas are renewable sources, right? And what strikes you, if you have a critical mind, what strikes you when it comes to this graph? when you think of net zero emission? Anything that strikes you? I just want to, I want you to sweat a little. Hmm? Yeah, I think it's clear. No, I want you to think about it, because what struck me when I saw this is that although, of course, the percentage of renewable sources of energy increases quite dramatically, the absolute amount of energy used from unrenewable sources also increases, which means that the emission right? There's the next couple of slides. So this is important to remember if you think about to what extent technology offers solutions. There's a couple of slides just for the sake of fun. This is the CO2 emissions. I think the amount of CO2 emissions and the increase of those since the second half of the previous century. And you see that there was a dramatic increase since the 1950s, post Second World War. The first slide is about the global use. The second slide, we can move to that. The next one. That's Indonesia, and you see a similar shape of the graph, right? It starts in Indonesia. It starts a little later. I think it's the 1960s, 70s that it starts. The steep, rise of the peak, right, is visible there as well. We can go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, this is about the kind of emissions, the sectors that are responsible for the emissions, and this is about the type of emissions. So CO2 on the left, figure, the CO2 is the blue, and methane is the green. So CO2 is was the large portion of emissions. And the second one, the next one, sir. Yeah, and this is about the per capita emissions. So this is about the amount of emissions per person per country, and you see that certain countries are particularly prone to emit, right? The biggest one is the US, and much smaller emitters are, for instance, European Union and so. So even industrialized countries, heavily industrialized countries, differ when it comes to the amount of emissions. Is there a next one? Oh, what does it say? 1 in 5 Indonesians is hard to see. 1 in 5 Indonesians don't believe human activity causes climate change. This is it's about false truth and real truth. I don't know why I put it there, just because I was struck by this. I think in the Netherlands it will be pretty much the same. And the next one. Oh yeah, that's where I arrive at artificial intelligence, because that's something that I was supposed to talk about as well. So if you look at renewable energy, you say that you can tell that if you look at renewable sources, that doesn't offer enough to meet our craving for energy, right? We need more than renewable sources. And we still want to realize net zero emissions. So we need more than this. And an option, according to intelligence. And I was kind of asked to say something about artificial intelligence this morning, especially regarding the potential promise of AI when it comes to realizing this net zero objective. Now, if you look at AI and the essence of the promise of AI, the promise of AI essentially concerns, in one word, concerns efficiency. Efficiency is what artificial intelligence produces. Optimization is what it produces. So the use of AI is often not so much about the production of energy itself, but it's about the ability to boost The ability of AI, artificial intelligence, to boost the efficiency of energy production, energy transportation, and energy consumption. In other words, what AI might do is help us become less wasteful and smarter consumers and managers of energy. Now, if you look at the literature on this, which is fairly new and was quite new to me as well, if you look at the literature, the promise of emission reduction because of AI concerns four things, four themes. And you see them on the slide there. The first is transportation optimization. The second is predictive maintenance. Third is supply chain management. And the fourth is smart grid management. Look very briefly at all four of these. Next slide, please. So the first promise of AI concerned transport optimization. Transport optimization. And transport optimization is about transforming, or you could say greening, the transport sector, which is a fairly large contributor to global warming. And greening as a result of AI would be the result of analyzing traffic data and fuel consumption in order to make, for instance, route planning more accurate. And the use of autonomous vehicles is part of that. How can you use autonomous vehicles? Don't need a driver. They are more efficient when it comes to fuel use. How can you use that in order to reduce emissions? Next slide. The second one is maintenance, predictive maintenance. And that's about the question, how can we use artificial intelligence to predict things, to predict, for instance, equipment failure? And how can we use it to predict maintenance needs? How can we reduce the downtime of machines, and how can we improve energy efficiency? Next one. Third one is supply chain management, right? And supply chain management considers the way in which AI can be used to analyze traffic patterns. And how can it be used to monitor product movement, to optimize transportation routes, also in warehouse? How can it be used to reduce packaging waste and minimize inventory levels, right? The fourth one, next. The final one is smart grid management. And this is about the way in which artificial intelligence might allow energy supervisors to monitor and analyze the flow of electricity and predict and manage shift in electricity demand by people and respond to that by means of a so-called smart power generation mix, a mix of renewable and unrenewable energy. The kind of mix that would cause least possible reliance on fossil fuel. Next slide. I don't think there's the need to remember all these different elements. The essence here is that the expectation is that AI will allow us, or will facilitate, like I said, the optimization of energy production, transportation, and consumption. And the crucial question clearly is, what is the point? What is the point? How much is it going to help us? How much is it going to help us really when we think about our net zero goal, right? Now, I think about 2 months ago, a report was commissioned by Microsoft, written by PricewaterhouseCoopers consulting firm, and they were quite optimistic. They were quite optimistic, and they said, AI can indeed help us to reduce emissions, right? And they think that if we maximize the potential, the realization of the potential of AI, by 2030, it can lead to an emission drop of 4%. Now, 4%, I don't know what you think of 4%. 4% is quite a lot. At least it's something, right? Useful. But clearly, 4% is only a very small step towards the realization of the net zero objective and the realization eventually of sustainability. Now, what lesson can we learn from this, right? What lesson can we learn from looking at the graph on renewable energy and looking at the promise of artificial intelligence and the potential of artificial intelligence? I think an important lesson to be learned here is that we shouldn't rely on technology alone to solve our problem. Technology is important. We do need technology, right? And it will help us. It will help us a lot, and we should not stop exploring it and innovate. But it will not prevent ecological catastrophe. In fact, if we return to the definition of sustainability, and if we think about it a little more, and I promised to do that at the beginning of the talk, then we can think about the yes, good. We can think about the definition of sustainability in a critical fashion and think about what extent sustainability itself, at least part of the definition of sustainability itself, will help us actually prevent ecological disaster. And we're going back to the definition here. So to sustain can be explained as two different things. First of all, to provide enough of what somebody or something needs in order to live or exist, or it can mean to make something continue for some time without becoming less. Now, if you look carefully at these definitions, and if you think critically about the environmental crises, then you should think about how these two definitions relate. I will not ask you to give me an answer to these questions, but I will try to give that answer, or my answer to that question myself. The first definition essentially is about the sufficiency, you could say it's about sufficiency for the sake of existence, which makes sense, right? Producing enough and producing it in such a fashion that we can live, that we can continue to exist. Not we as human beings alone, but life on Earth, trees, plants, animals. But that's the first definition. It's about sufficiency for the sake of existence. The second definition is about continuation of things as they are without becoming less. And this is often what technological solutions try to do. Technology, including AI, in most of these reports is presented as a means that allows us to sustain our way of life, to enjoy air conditioning, to enjoy relatively cheap transportation, to enjoy fast fashion, to enjoy ayam or daging sapi every day, to throw our garbage on the roadside. And this clearly, if you think of yourself perhaps, and I think reflection is very important for us as scientists, this is clearly what we want, what we ultimately really want. We want comfort. I like comfort. I like being able to travel. I like it when I get decent clothing at reasonable prices. I like to use the air conditioning when it's hot. I like not to worry too much about these things. And we kind of like, next slide please. We kind of like to be consumers in the land of plenty, right? But this kind of sustaining our way of life is not compatible with the other definition of sustaining. It's not compatible with the other definition of sustaining. If we want life, all life that is, right, to continue to exist, we just cannot maintain our way of living. And on the other hand, if we want to keep living the way in which we do, well, then not all life will continue to exist. There's some examples already, and the decline of biodiversity is undeniable. Some scientists call this the double bind. I don't know if you've heard the word double bind. The double bind is there's the dilemma. And you have to choose between two things that are irreconcilable, incompatible. And you want two things. You want to keep living the way you do, and perhaps you want more of that even. You want to be able to consume more, travel more, have more. You want to continue life as it is. But we also want life to continue. We want both, but we may not be able to have both. And I guess this is the human factor in the talk. If I look at the title of this talk, which I didn't write myself, Artificial Intelligence and Net Zero Strategies, the human factor in successful sustainability transformation. The human factor in successful sustainability transformation. Next slide. So successful, if you ask me, successful sustainability transformation is not going to be about artificial intelligence. That's going to be a play part, but a small part. And it's not going to be only about technological solutions that will help us reduce emissions and do all these other things that are necessary to save our planet. Technology will help, as I said, but technology will not be enough. Unfortunately, in a way, successful sustainability transformation is only possible if our approach to life changes. Gradually, we've learned and we've been told by governments and by corporations that economic growth is essential for human well-being, for the well-being of society and for the well-being of individuals. And growth depends on productivity and consumption. You see there on the slide, you see that as well. And kind of every corporation and government, they sell that idea of growth, the importance of growth, economic growth. Growth or growth potential determines the share prices of big corporations. And growth is often the promise of politicians in my country, in your country, in virtually all democratic societies in the world. Growth is the promise of politicians to voters. Prabowo, I think that was last month or in May, he promised economic growth. He says in 2 or 3 years' time, growth rate will increase to a whopping 8%, which is way above global average. It's above Asian average. This means that the amount of goods and services that are produced, or the value of the amount of goods and services that are produced, increased by 8% per year. And the idea here is that growth is good. And that growth is good for ordinary people as well, because growth links to wealth, and it links to the ability to enjoy consumption. And the underlying idea is that if we enjoy growth, we become richer and we can buy more stuff. Now, maybe you can move to the next slide. 2 days ago, there was an article in The Guardian, the British newspaper, The Guardian, written by a special commissioner of the United Nations, which explored the relationship between poverty, growth, and the environment. And the conclusion, you can look it up, it's a few days old, I think, the report. The conclusion is that growth causes environmental destruction and does not lead to poverty reduction. This is a UN report just published. It leads to environmental damage, destruction, and it barely leads to poverty reduction. According to the author of this report, this is not me speaking, the elites are the ones that benefit most from economic growth. But the idea is, and that I think we all kind of feel that, even when I see growth figures, I feel reassured. When I hear the economy of my country has grown, it feels like our welfare has been secured, right? But the idea is that growth is good, and growth is good for everyone, also for ordinary people. But growth clearly has a dark side. Growth can, and like I said, it often will be ecologically destructive, right? Sometimes very immediately, because the Indonesian growth is an example. If you look at the analysis of growth, projected growth in Indonesia, it depends on biodiesel a lot, and biodiesel comes from palm oil. And clearly palm oil is linked to deforestation. But more in general, growth, by definition, always puts pressure on the environment, because it involves, by definition, the use of natural resources, the depletion of natural resources, the increase of mobility of people, and for instance, the production of waste and emission. And although I personally also would like it to be different, it is impossible to have such economic growth and realize sustainable transformation. We cannot live on we cannot sustain life on Earth if we stick to this growth-oriented system of production and consumption. This is really hard, and this is not an ideology that I'm sharing, but this is a factual observation. So what is needed for real sustainability, in a way, is revolution. And not revolution in the political sense, but revolution in the literal meaning of the word. We need a fundamental transformation to our approach of consumption and production. And this fundamental transformation, you can move to the next slide. This fundamental transformation is about moving from the illusion of limitlessness, the idea that there's no boundaries to growth, no boundaries to consumption, no boundaries to extraction and accumulation. We need to move from that idea of limitlessness or endlessness to an understanding of ultimate limitation. Because ultimately, whether we like it or not, we all live on a planet on which resources are limited and on which the potential for growth is also limited. Because growth on one place will lead to decline in another place, or will cause disruption in other places. And this is, I think, what we need to understand and respect before defining our goals and strategies for development. So I guess nothing less than a kind of a revolution of the human mind is what we need to start with. Kind of a fundamental transformation of our relation to the planet and our definition of what development entails. I mean, I think I'm doing well, time-wise. Normally I don't do well, but and this revolution of the mind, my friends, is so much easier said than done. But you, unlike me, you all are the future, especially students at this department, heading towards a life, a professional life in the realm of agriculture. I guess more than others, you will be co-architects of the future of food security, the future of sustainable food production. So you have a massive responsibility, if you ask me. More than me, I'm just lecturing here, giving a talk, and that's it. But you'll be the architects, you'll be the designers of food systems, right? And please make sure that you will always be critical, very critical architects, and perhaps even revolutionaries in the struggle for systemic change and sustainability. That's my message to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hans, for your presentation and insightful knowledge. Maybe you can sit on your, taking part on your seat. Okay, once more, please give applause to Mr. Hans.